They're sheep. They're following the crowd. And we see that a lot this day. These gangs coming into New York, right? And destroying our city.
Do they have photo ID copies?
Everything. They're going to get IDs now. They're getting Medicaid. I don't like saying it's the end of times. New York is very resilient. We'll get through it. But how much pain we have to go through to get through it.
I'm here in New York City right now with Leroy Press, Viral News, New York City. He is the main source of information that you can get from somebody that's independent, and he's pretty much an investigative journalist here inside the city, and he's a night crawler. He crawls throughout the streets at night, he finds crime. He's the best person to get inside information about anything New York City. So Leroy, what are we seeing in New York City right now?
So right now we have a number of different things, from the migrants to the Palestinian protests, the pro-Israel protests. We're seeing some crime with migrants. It's New York City. We see everything here. It's like you have everything in one shot over here. Everything in one big bowl. So like we can see anything driving today.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, like right now we have the cop radar going, and so if you hear any noise and stuff, that's from the cop radar. Right now, specifically with the Palestinian groups and the riots and the protests that are happening, what is New York seeing and what's causing these outbreaks?
So right now, specifically in some of the pro-Palestinian groups, is we have these anarchist groups that are infiltrating them, and they're the one causing more of the problems that you're seeing on TV with the burning flags, attacking cops. These groups are known to do this kind of stuff. This is not the first time they infiltrated protests and different movements. They do it all the time, from the Watson Hotel 2 years ago, a year ago, where it was supposed to be migrants didn't want to leave the hotel, but what happened is those anarchist groups infiltrated the migrants, and they made it look like it was only migrants holding up the spot. Well, that's the same thing with these Palestinian protests, right? It's one thing to be an anti-war protest and protest for Palestinians that are being killed at times due to the war, right? It's another thing to start pushing terrorist organizations. It's another thing to start burning the streets on fire or fighting with cops, right? And that's the problem right now. If it was a regular Palestinian protest and there were, like, I get it, they want to, it's a war, right? People die during wars, and that's the reality, right? If they want to protest for innocent people that are getting killed during the war, I get it. But some of these anarchist groups are protesting in support of Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, right? It's labeled a terrorist organization by pretty much every country in the world.
With these Palestinian protests, what percent would you say are good people that believe they're fighting for the right cause, and the other percent of anarchists, and the other percent of people that have no idea what they're doing and they're just there to join the crowd?
I would say a lot of them have no idea what they're doing. If you've seen a video that came out, you've seen a college girl from NYU. She had no idea why she's out there. There's people chanting stuff like Antifada, Antifada. They have no idea what Antifada means. It's a terrorist attack. This was a terrorist attack by Hamas terrorists in Palestine. I would say majority of the people that are there do not know the history. The anarchists there that do know some of the history are manipulating these people. If they knew exactly what they were chanting, they wouldn't chant it. Some of these kids are just, they're sheep. They're following the crowd. And we see that a lot this day, where people just don't know what they're chanting for, what they're protesting for. It's ridiculous. And again, look, Israel got attacked by terrorists, a terrorist organization. They killed kids, they raped women, they chopped off babies' heads. They did a lot of bad things, right? And that's not a war, that was a terrorist attack. Israel has all the right to defend themselves and take out these people that did that to them, right? And I'm fully supportive of Israel. Get them, right? And Israel's trying everything it possibly can not to kill civilians, right? But we have these Hamas terrorists that are hiding behind civilians, right? And that's an issue.
And what effect do you think these protests are having here? I mean, we're thousands and thousands of miles away from where the conflict's actually having. Do you think the people over there in Israel are like, what's going on here in America? Or do you think we're actually the protesters, do you think they're actually making a difference?
I have friends in Israel that are in the military, in the Israeli government, and they say we don't care about no protest in America. They don't care. Mm-hmm. What is a protest in America going to affect someplace in Israel? Yeah. Makes no sense. Look, these groups that are taking over, they're anti-government groups, and they'll take over any movement just to push an anti-government agenda. What do you think is going to happen if you're protesting in the middle of Times Square saying Free Palestine? That's not going to change anything. If they want to change something, go to Gaza, right? Go fight the IDF. Let me know how you're going to do that. But I know they're not going to.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of it's just more bark than anything.
It's all bark.
It's all bark, and at the end of the day, probably not really helping anybody here in New York City, would you say?
It's not helping
Is anybody
anyone.
benefiting from this?
No one, well, there's people benefiting from it. These anarchist groups that just like chaos. These are anti-governmental groups. And no one's benefiting from this. They're pushing their agenda no matter what movement they take onto, no matter what movement they latch onto. It's the same agenda. Anti-cop, anti-government, F the police. All that stuff is the same thing over and over again. They did it during Black Lives Matter also. And I think it's the same groups.
So do you think those people that did like the Black Lives Matter groups and those anarchists, do you think they're leading now? They just hopped over to another, like almost like another campaign, another group?
That's exactly what they're doing.
And
It's
now
the same
they're with
people.
Palestine.
It's the same people.
Just causing havoc here.
Just causing havoc. Yeah, it's the same people over and over again.
What effect does this cause for like the normal civilian that walks in the street? I mean, kids in Columbia right now, they're not able to, or at the Columbia University right now, they're not even able to go to classes and walk around the campus without worrying about something out, like a fight breaking out.
Look, it's affecting the kids in Columbia. It's a selfish agenda they're pushing right now. What is Columbia going to have to stop the war in Israel and Gaza? It's not going to have no effect. They're not accomplishing anything. Look, they've been out in the streets for 6 months protesting so far. Nothing changed. So now what do they want to do? They want to go harass students and interrupt their school days.
I got into the Columbia University, and I went around, walked around, and I went into the encampment. I was eventually kicked out of it. However, I was asking people, I was like, well, can I talk to you on camera? Like, what are you guys doing? Because this is completely a foreign topic to me. Like, I'm from the West Coast, grown up Christian my whole entire life, and I have no idea what's going on with Israel or Palestine, to be honest. And so and these kids wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't even like give me their own opinion. They're like, well, you have to go talk to this person, and then you have to go talk to this person just to get the info. And so I don't really know if those kids even know what they're doing. They're just like literally have taken over that whole entire university and put up like their own encampment.
Well, that's exactly what's going on, Nick. They're censoring everything that's going on. They don't want any real information going on. They want to push their own narrative. And God forbid you have a different opinion by them, you're a right-wing extremist, right? And the reason why they kicked you out is because they don't know you. They see they probably can't control you, right? They can't control what you put out, so they get you out. Look, there was a video that came out the other day, and I think it came out yesterday. And you hear the group organizers saying, we will control the narrative, we will send out our press releases, you have to send them to certain people to speak if there's press there. Like, that's not freedom of speech. They want their freedom to protest. What about the freedom of press, right? It has to go both ways. They're censoring everything they're doing. It's in their playbook, and I've seen it before during Black Lives Matter, and they're doing it again now during this Palestinian stuff. And that's why I said they've taken over a movement, and they're pushing their own greedy agenda again.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, because there's the freedom of protesting here in the United States, and there's also the freedom of press. I mean, they were protesting, I went in, tried to do press, and I was the one that was kicked out and taken out.
They want to control you, Nick. That's exactly what happened. Look, they know who they can control and who they can't. Look, I filmed these groups for a year and a half during the BLM protests and riot. I know exactly who these groups are. I know exactly what they're about. And it's the same thing over and over again. If you go against their narrative, you're a right-wing extremist. I'm not even right-wing. I'm just down-the-middle guy. And people, look, I get a lot of crap from the right wing too, and like, oh well, you're not right-wing, you're left-wing, and then from the left wing, I get you're right-wing. People want you to push an agenda for them, and here's the thing: anything too far left and anything too far right is bad, right? There's no more middle ground. There's no. If you're not an extremist, you're either a far left or a far right.
It's unbelievable what's happening. And my mom, Brooke T. Jones, had a question for you.
I just wanted to throw this in because by these protests happening and these pro-Palestinians taking over college campuses, they're taking the rights and the freedoms away from the individuals that are there. And the kids that are graduating this year in 2024, these kids graduated in 2020 when there was that virus that went throughout all the world. There was no graduation. And now the kids that are graduating from like Columbia, USC, I know USC for sure, their graduation is canceled. So therefore, those kids, their right to have a graduation, their accomplishment is taken away because of a small group of protesters that are controlling that university right now, and it's not freedom.
You're exactly right. It's not freedom. And again, we'll go back to it's a selfish agenda pushed by these groups. And again, they won't accomplish anything here. They know they're not accomplishing anything here. What are you going to accomplish in a campus in New York City, in Yale? You tell me what you're going to accomplish. You're not going to accomplish anything but disrupt these kids in the school here that have nothing to do with Israel.
They're fighting a cause that's miles and miles away, and it doesn't look like anything really good's going to come from it here inside New York City. And on top of what's been going on with the migrants, and the migrant crisis is just another thing that's layered on top of the issues that are going on here in New York City. And majority of people here that watch my videos, they've followed me because of what I've done with the migrant crisis here inside New York City. And you've been on it since the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And how have you seen it change from day one when all the migrants started coming in to now where we're at, where they've entered in over probably near 200,000 people?
Nick, I remember the first bus coming into New York. I think I filmed it. I remember the first hotel opening up in New York. I think I filmed it. I think I broke that story. In the beginning, yeah, even activists in the beginning were happy about it. And it says, yeah, we're helping people. And in a kind of a way, I was like, all right, we're helping people. It's not that bad. These guys are really, some of these guys are really running from being murdered and killed by these gangs, to these gangs coming into New York, right, and destroying our city, right? A lot of these gangs, they're out there shooting. They got guns now. They're out there robbing. And again, not all of them are bad, but unfortunately, we went from a few thousand to 200,000 migrants that cannot be controlled, right? We have over, I think, around 250 shelters in New York, right, that are housing migrants. We have our own homeless population that doesn't have homes, right? So it's bad, Nick. And the money, forget about that. How much money we had to spend. I think the mayor said we have over a $5 billion budget per year for the migrants this year. Now, I'm pretty sure the mayor didn't sign up for this. He did invite them, but I don't think he meant 200,000 of these guys showing up. Mm-hmm. It's
and a lot of people try to put the blame on Mayor Adams, but does Mayor Adams have the blame? Or who has the blame for the people that are coming here?
Look, I can blame Mayor Adams for telling them to come here, but he can't stop it. And again, he said come here, but I don't think he meant 200,000 of them, mm-hmm. right? No one would have thought this many. The real blame is the open borders, which we go back to the Biden administration, and they have to deal with this. Now, they're playing some kind of switcheroo on people now, and what they're saying, it's the Republicans' problem, it's the Republicans caused this, which I'm not a very political guy, but it's not the Republicans' fault. If you want to get technical, it's Joe Biden, Mayorkas, and the Congress that should have closed these borders a long time ago, or at least got better vetting, right? So what's happening at the borders now is anybody's getting through. There's so many fake asylum seekers that are passing through right now. It's horrible. And again, you got to think about the ones that really need help. Like, there is migrants that need help that ran from these gangs, and we've seen it firsthand that these gangs are here. They're connected to murders, they're connected to shooters, human trafficking, everything else. Like, what did we do here? Did we help anybody or we hurt them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you even told me, migrants you have spoken to said the people we ran from followed us here. Now, how did we help anybody? Not only did we hurt these people, we hurt our own civilians here as well.
Yeah. And it seems like the only people we really did help were the governments of other countries because they were able to release endless amounts of people here into America. And something I found super interesting today when we were talking with you, when we were walking around the streets, you said now migrants are actually deciding to go back to their countries, such as the migrants from Venezuela. Now they're going back to Venezuela because they're asking for tickets to go back to their country.
Yeah, well, my sources in the hotels are telling me a bunch of them going back to Venezuela. Now, even Venezuelans that I know tell me it's peaceful there now. Reason why is all the gangs came here. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is the smart ones are saying, look, we can go back now. It's safe. They're all here in New York.
Yeah.
So it's backwards. Whoever had this plan going on, whoever thought of this ridiculous plan about open borders really screwed us.
It's so fascinating because in Venezuela, I've talked to so many migrants, and it's a horrible country, and mainly because of crime due to extortions and then the wages that they work for. But now since the crime issue's gone, it's been in over like 40 years, I believe, and over 50% of the population has left Venezuela. So now it's probably a good time to go there and create opportunities for other people.
Hey, look, I don't blame them. They have nothing here. These good ones have nothing here, right? The ones that are really seeking asylum, go back. But then what are we going to do with the bad ones that are here? How are we going to deal with them?
The filter, it sounds like good ones and bad ones came in, and now some good ones are staying, all the bad ones are staying, and the other good ones are going back to the country.
Pretty much. That's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what's happening. And again, it's a shame it happened. Again, we have to point the finger at the Biden administration, right? I don't blame the mayors. I don't blame the governors, right? They're being forced this. They can't stop this, and they've tried to stop it.
The sanctuary city laws was put in before Mayor Adams was even mayor of this place.
Yeah, and again, like, even if he changes sanctuary city status, right? That's not going to change anything because these migrants are technically here legally. They're paroled into New York City. So even the sanctuary city status, you can't do nothing to them. Mm-hmm. People are confused, right? A lot of them are coming to New York is because the right to shelter law, right? Because they know they get free housing, free food, free everything, right? Sanctuary city laws, if they're undocumented and have no paperwork, they have paperwork to be here right now.
Mm-hmm. How are they getting paperwork? Because we were at the shelter and it said we are giving flights to migrants anywhere they need. However, the requirement is that they have US ID. How are they getting IDs?
So they're getting it with their parolee papers, right? So here's how it works. They cross the border, they get arrested by Border Patrol, they go through Homeland Security, they give them papers, and they say, look, here's your papers, come back to court whenever you're ready. And they're technically illegal. They got arrested and they get released.
Really?
So that's their paperwork. That's their legal documents.
And do they have photo ID copies?
Everything. They're going to get IDs now. They're getting Medicaid. They're getting insurance, and they get IDs with those.
Really?
And also, when you go get Medicaid or financial aid or whatever it is, they're getting, some of them I heard allegedly are getting right to vote, because when you sign up for that, you can check in. Yeah, I want to vote, and you can't ask them for their immigration status. So it's a real, what's this guy? And
wow,
it's a real,
yeah, that's new. I didn't know that.
It's a real confusing situation. But let's see. Hopefully they were honest and they said they're not citizens and they don't have the right to vote.
Yeah, but they can say, like, yeah, we're citizens, let us vote.
They can say whatever they want.
What about, because we talked to this one guy yesterday, he was from Africa, and he was saying he's been here since 2023, still hasn't worked a single day since he's been here, been in and out the shelter systems, and he's saying he's meeting with his lawyer and he's going to get his Social Security card. Is that something these migrants should all be getting?
He can't get Social Security card.
He can or can't?
Can't, absolutely not.
If they get there, because his thinking is, if he, do you have to like be a citizen in America to get Social Security?
African migrants are not getting Social Security numbers. No one should be getting so. They might get work permits. Then he has some kind of shady lawyer doing that. Look, when I was speaking to people, Africans technically don't have a valid asylum seeker paper. Why? Because what they're using is they're saying we're politically persecuted. Like, say you're a Trump supporter and I'm a Biden supporter, right? Which I'm not. Say that, and then Trump wins or Biden wins. You're going to leave this country to say because, Biden won because I like Trump, and now because I like Trump, I'm going to leave. That's the excuse they're using. That's not what they're saying. That's what they're saying. That's not a valid point. That's why they'll never get working papers. They'll never get. The Venezuelans do because of the gangs and all that stuff and the persecution there.
The Venezuelans, Cubans, and Haitians automatically get pretty much asylum cases.
Not automatically. They got to go to court, which is hardly any of them are going to court anyway.
Yeah.
They're getting their court date and they're not showing up. I think there's a small percentage of them that actually did their asylum seeker papers.
Really? What's the point of them not going to the court? Like, why wouldn't they go if they know they're going to get it?
Why would they? There's no enforcement.
Fake papers.
There's no enforcement, Nick, right? No one's searching for them. And now if they don't go to court, now they're here without documents, right? And that means, okay, now they're technically illegal here, right?
Yeah.
And they don't have papers. But the sanctuary city law, you can't do nothing. it's we're in a bad situation.
What do you think the future is with New York City, especially with the Palestinian protests, the migrant crisis, and everything else that's going on here?
Look, I don't like saying it's the end of times. New York is very resilient. We'll get through it. But how much pain we have to go through to get through it? Right? How much pain do we have to go through to fix this one? We went through 9/11. We went through COVID. We went through all these other disasters in New York City, right? How much more do we have to go through, right? And these things could have been avoided if they were done the right way.
Do you think another big thing is going to be coming for New York City, like a big attack like 9/11 that already once happened? Do you think?
Unfortunately, New York City is the heart of the world. You affect New York, you affect the rest of the world. So yes, it's a matter of time before something else happens.
Wow, it's going to be crazy times here in New York City. And Leroy, where can people find you at?
Sure, you can go on my my YouTube, Leroy, Leeroy, 2 E's in Leroy Press, Leroy Press. My Instagram is the same one, Leroy Press, with 2 E's and a Leroy. My Twitter is Viral News NYC, one word. You can find me on there.
You guys are going to want to check him out, and make sure you guys subscribe and like this video, and we'll be reading your comments down below. Thank you so much, Leroy.
Thank you, Nick. God bless you and your moms.